turns out that someone like a manager or a marketer or anyone had this idea, like, we should change this button, move it over there, change it from text link to primary button, just examples. So I think that's to be quite honest with you. Because, and that's why I'm asking you to be my therapist right now. Like, is that just me being petty? Like, I'm a designer, I should be in control? Or does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the person who changed it, you said it was a developer, or was it a project manager, or like,
well,
how?
Just
You're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. When's the last time you've shipped something, Tyler?
The last time I personally shipped something, it's been a while actually. I've transitioned to like doing the only design stuff. Though for my side projects, I do a lot of shipping, but mostly a lot of marketing material, so like email, landing pages, etc.
Right.
So not quite shipping. I've been doing a lot of prototyping, a lot of vibe coding, your favorite. So
Yeah.
close to shipping, but not quite.
Right. The reason I'm asking is because everyone's shipping these days, and that seems to be one of the most commonly accepted views these days, that everyone can ship, everyone should ship.
Yeah.
Speed. But looking at you as a experienced designer on the job every day, it doesn't sound like it's as standard, or for you at least, like it's not super common.
No, but I think we're going to be slowly transitioning to be close to shipping, or at least getting into production code. So most recently, I requested access to our GitHub account, so I can get access.
Congratulations.
Thank
Big
you.
step.
Thank you. I just have to go through the Confluence page and fumble my way into making that install happen. I might ask GPT to be my co-pilot to figure that out if I don't bother one of my engineering partners. But it's caught a trend. So some of my members of my design team would like to join as well. So getting a GitHub access as well, and then starting to dive in, just getting curious and diving into like what the code looks like.
Right. So are they getting curious because of you? Like, were you the one to introduce this, or have they caught the LinkedIn virus?
I wouldn't say that they caught the virus. I think as a team, as like the design team, we've been very proactive in terms of like surfing this AI trend. So like our team is creating like GPTs, automating a bunch of different things. And this is just like a consequence of all this, of the work we've done. So we've taken up kind of prototyping in Figma Make or Claude Code. And then the natural kind of progression is to like, well, yes, we have this thing that doesn't go anywhere. It's more of like a show and tell thing. What's the next step? And the next step is working with production code.
Right. And do you mean making the vibe code a prototype like good enough to be production level code, or would you then start from scratch production level code? Basically doing everything from the beginning again.
Yeah, I think the end state is going to be the vibe coding production ready code. So I have a friend who we're in like this similar circles in a design community, and he's a design engineer. And he's created his own, I guess, mini product where you're able to kind of vibe code 5 different variations using the code base of whatever enterprise you're in. So just the idea of like, generally, if you're kind of working in production or on a staging environment, you're creating one thing, but he's created this tool where you can basically iterate and create 5 variations to kind of test in parallel, which is interesting.
It is. Yeah.
So like, it seems like designers are like that gap is closing. I feel like in-house is catching up. I feel like freelance, correct me if I'm wrong, like that is like you're shipping. So I feel like that's more the case.
Well, it really depends on the company, I would say, more so than in-house versus freelance. Because I mean, you can freelance at large corporations too, like as an interim person, just to fill a gap for a while. I just happen to freelance more for like startup or early stage or smaller teams. Not by choice. I mean, that just happened to happen to me. And so I think it's more about company size. Like large usually means slower.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say that. I think you'd have to be very proactive in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just as a little side note, the best example is working on a government project. It took 2 years to get a Figma plugin approved for allowing us to use it.
Very
You
good.
know, where at a startup, they're like, well, sure,
Yeah.
try it out. Good luck. We'll see. And I think that's a natural progression from startup with nothing to lose to a large company / business with something to lose. We can try this plugin, but if it breaks, if everyone ships and then that breaks, we have 1,000 customers that will be angry and branding damage and all that kind of stuff. So it does make sense that things are slower at a large company, but maybe a bit too slow. Like it doesn't need to take 2 years.
No, that seems like a long cycle to get to the next iteration.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, we recently had a company on offsite or a yearly kickoff. And one of the projects that we worked on was design system work. So like the design system from the design team perspective, like in Figma was ahead. Like the parity was the gap was too large. So we took this opportunity, this 3-day retreat to do some design system work. So we had all our Figma files ready. And then essentially the engineering team was not vibe coding. They were Claude prompting their MCP, like leveraging Claude's MCP to like generate and kind of generate these components to match the design system so that they can insert into Storybook. And that only could have worked because like the design team did a really good job of like really meticulously like crafting the design system in a way where like the MCP ingests it perfectly. But that being said, now that that's set up, so now that we have that kind of parity, this unlocks the reason like why myself and other designers are getting access to GitHub because all those components are set in stone. To create a new prototype or a new feature might be easier. Like the backend piece might be missing, but at least like the front end piece, that'll be easier to create because we have these components documented.
Yeah. I mean, you can fake the backend stuff, uses dummy data and animations instead of the actual thing. And then if it's validated, then you can bring it over to a backend engineer to quote unquote make it real. You can say vibe coding when I'm in the room, by the way. Like
I feel hesitant whenever you're in the room. Like I shouldn't, the word that shall not be named.
No, I'll not get angry. I'll not curse you when when you're out of the room. I mean, you can just say it. I don't mind. What I think is very interesting. The everybody ships, and this belief that everyone should ship. I want to mention perhaps the opposite. I think it's so easy now to come up with an idea and build it and just see what happens. That takes away a bad idea filter, I think. Because, just relatively short ago, like 2-3 years ago, if you had an idea, it was expensive to realize and create and actually build the thing. And because of it, you really had to think it through. Like, will this work for us as a company? Will it work for our users? Is it technically feasible? Like, should we do this? Can we do this? All the, and then edge cases and all the whole process. It took way longer, and because of it, you really took your time to think about it. So I'm somewhat concerned, perhaps, that with everyone shipping and just changing things, whatever comes up in their mind, like let's change this thing over there and this thing over there. The quality of our work might go down if we do not have some sort of review mechanism or filtering or whatever.
That's fair. Because that's like the bottleneck was like it was like a velocity issue, right? So like generally teams, it takes a while. You created the idea of creating an MVP or an MLP was that like it would take too long to do the full-fledged thing. But now like velocity has been unlocked. So it's like what not to ship. Have you felt like a velocity shift like in your day-to-day? Like are you kind of going from 0 to 1 or kind of releasing things quicker now?
Well, let me ask you to be my therapist for a moment.
Let's do it.
I'm having multiple. I work on multiple projects at the same time, like multiple,
Yep.
like smaller, hourly time things. So
Mhm.
1 day over here, 1.5 day over there. Like, so in any given time, in any month, I might work on like 10 projects for 10 clients.
Okay.
What I'm noticing at any given time is like 2 or 3 of those projects. I work on something, the whole design stuff, and I'm happy and it makes sense and it's shipped, perhaps not by me, or well, just it's shipped, it's there. Next week, I return to the project. And then I get feedback like, hey, this doesn't work. I look at the code and the product and it's different compared to how the way I left it.
Oh, okay.
Turns out that someone like a manager or a marketer or anyone had this idea like, we should change this button, move it over there, change it from text link to primary button, just examples. So I think that's to be quite honest with you,
Mm.
because, and that's why I'm asking you to be my therapist right now. I'm like, is that just me being petty? Like, I'm a designer, I should be in control, or does it make sense? And the reason I'm asking is because I spend a lot of time, thinking about the layout, visual hierarchy. Things are a text link for a reason. Like, they should stand out, but not too much. They shouldn't conflict with different things. Like, there's this whole idea behind the goals that we have for a landing page, for example. So I was quite annoyed to see that they quote unquote they just changed it. They just shipped. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the person who changed it, you said it was a developer, or was it a project manager, or like
Well,
how?
then just an example, like different roles. Like, let's say someone who's not been involved with the actual design process of the thing that's been changed.
Right.
An outsider, basically. Could be anyone. Could be you, a marketer, a founder, a developer, anyone, basically.
Yeah. So like my first instinct is like, maybe it's an ego thing. It's like your baby, your thing that you've worked on.
Yeah.
But like, if I just like ignore that and go to the second level, there's things that you've kind of discovered along the way and kind of creating what, like, your fingerprints are on the product because you've done some testing, you've architected certain features in a certain way or certain pages in a certain way. And like someone making a change, they don't have the context. So like that might be like a documentation issue. Like if someone, or like a process issue, like if someone's touching this page or this feature, they should not just change stuff because there was some research done in the background that just crushes and supersedes.
Yeah.
That might be different if you're doing like an A/B test, like crush it fine, but like there's a base level and then there's the comparison. So like if whatever KPI is lifted with that experiment, fine. But it's interesting that you say it. Like it might just be like, it's annoying because like it's your work and someone's just changing it, and then you're back like, okay, well, this is my stuff. Get away from me. But then like it goes, if we circle back to your everyone ships point, that might be the new reality that we live in, where like we're moving quickly, and it's about like doing changes because we can, if there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Then it's just about setting like the guardrails and the rules, so that like if you make a change, like here's how you would go around and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go back to just the start of your answer. Yeah, perhaps there's a bit of an ego thing there. I'm a designer; it's my thing. For sure, that's part of it. Just being honest about it. I'm not perfect. I think it's not a reality I think we should be in. You're saying like it's a reality where everyone can ship and everyone will ship, because of, if it's a gut feeling like, hey, I want this thing to be more important, let's make it bigger. It feels like you're on a bus and all passengers have a steering wheel.
Yeah. I think it only works.
We'll get off the road that way.
Yeah, I think it only works like that reality. Like I think in your scenario, or the example that you've given, there's validation in your kind of in the feeling that you're getting. I think the scenario where everyone ships and everyone can like, there's a lot of like overlap in terms of people affecting different parts of whatever the work you're working on, is that there's alignment. Like that's like the first, like there should be alignment. This is how we're building our product. This is how we're building our thing.
Yeah.
and this is how we do it. And then everyone has context, whether that's documentation, like Slack messages, like just you need to have the context to make a decision, or else it just like the job that we're all doing, keeping ourselves accountable, that just kind of breaks.
Yeah.
And then by consequence, the product, like the brand value kind of diminishes because like things are being changed, but there's no consistency here.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does mean that, yes, everyone can ship, but not everyone should ship.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe differently said, like, I think that's also more or less what you're saying. Like there should be some sort of a reviewing and acceptance process in place. Like
Yeah.
you can suggest something to be shipped, and then someone higher up should say yes or no or change this to it, and
Yep.
then you can still say if it's all good, you can say, okay, well, it's good, go ship. And then you can say, well, I have shipped it. I'm not a developer, but I did ship it. But there should be something in between, I think.
Yeah, I think the context is important. Like you're the perfect persona, like the like design code product management, like having that skill set, like, versus like if I were to give an example of like a PM who only has that responsibility versus someone like yourself as the persona who has the context from 0 to 1 end to end, the marketing, sales, design part, and engineering. If I were to choose which one should be doing the change, it should be you, which like goes like along with my thesis of the year where everyone's going to become like this builder person. So like having like the skill set of like the triad, design, engineering, or product, like you would have the proper amount of context to make a decision versus someone who only has like, who's only within their vertical. Like I'm the marketer. I don't know much about like the code or the product. I just know how to market the thing. Like you should have a bit more skin in the game versus like, I would change that, but like, it's going back to like when people say as a user, I wouldn't like this, when in reality, what they're saying is I don't like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's the risk too. For me, what I just mentioned, like maybe I just didn't like the button change. Maybe it's very petty on my end. Yeah, I mean, that structure needs to be there. If I look at the project I'm involved with the best reviewing mechanism, they are all very happy for me as a non-developer to ship stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I create a PR, so the pull request to submit, and that's where I submit, where you're like, this is a change that I'd like to make. What do you think? They are reviewing it like with full force, like as if I were a developer. Like they're not going to play nice, like, oh, well, he's a designer, let's be extra friendly. He doesn't know. No, I have to, like, if I want to ship, I have to ship something that follows the high level of standards that they have as a group of developers. So in that case, I think it's fine. In that case, you should ship if you want to. If you can.
That makes sense. And that aligns with like a couple weeks ago or maybe 2 weeks ago, someone had reached out to me on LinkedIn with, and they were kind of sharing me a link or like a Loom video on like the product that they're building, which essentially allows PMs or like non-technical people to ship code, but it's gated behind a PR. So it's almost like a Webflow-ish thing that you put on top of your code base, but it allows you to visually edit. It only allows you to edit like the front end, like no back end edits. But if you want to do a change to like UI shift, etc., the output is a pull request that into your example, the engineering team can reject and goes through that same scrutiny that which that makes sense. So like to the accountable piece, I think if that's the way we're moving, that makes sense that there's like a developer persona, like, no, this is not passing. Try that again.
This is not the way, Sure, someone should be able to say it, like that's okay, perhaps even needed. Because I mean, that's my main concern. Like this whole thing comes from, it's all about speed. We can do more things faster. I don't really think that's the problem. It's never been the problem that we couldn't write code fast enough. It's that 2-year process that you need to get something approved. So we should find a way to speed that up.
Yeah. And also like from from like the leadership point of view, like, sorry, from the consumer or like the user, like, because you can like imagine like you can ship things on like a daily basis. Like, how overwhelming might that be for a user? Like when they're like the product is changing on a day-to-day basis, and while they're just trying to get used to using the V1 of the app, and now they're having to kind of learn on a daily basis as you're shipping new things. So like also like the cadence in which you're shipping is also affects the end consumer because they're consuming it, and then if it's often like they can't gain a foothold or get that pattern recognition to understand the app that you're kind of serving to them.
Yeah. Do you ever notice that you are part of an A/B test of a just a common service that many people use?
Yeah, I think Atlassian does that a lot, and they it's annoying, but they like who's going to complain?
Yeah.
They know. I think they get away with it because they know they're dealing with a more technical user. So they're constantly running experiments, changing buttons, moving things around, and then it's annoying, but like we're not going to change. It's the tool. It's like industry standard tool.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, but more consumer-focused tools and services do this as well. But the reason I'm asking is because that little annoyance is you're like, well, that's annoying, but it's fine too. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But imagine that happening daily, just to your point of being able to ship something daily. I think it's important to know what you want to change. So, for example, I'm shipping a frequently asked questions component.
Yeah.
It's nice connected to a CMS. That's something that I feel comfortable with to ship because it's so standard. Like we all know what an FAQ is. It has a title and it has a list of questions. And when you click one of the blocks, it opens and you see the whole question. The plus changes into a minus or a cross. Or, it's so basic, so common and best practice. Like I can vibe code it together. Anyway.
You said it.
I said it, yeah. But so we all know what we want. We all know it's like I'm 99% sure that it's going to be beneficial. It takes away uncertainty for potential users who aren't sure yet, like we're answering their questions. But then I'm also working on something else, and then we have the discussion like, should it be this thing? Should it have collapsibles? Yes or no? And then if so, should we use screenshots or pack all those screenshots into an animated GIF? And then all those questions on top of, we don't even know if this thing we're trying out is going to work, yes or no. Like there's so much uncertainty there. Like that shouldn't be just shipped. It might do more damage than good. So that requires, people to sit down, think about it, perhaps go into Figma, draw it out, have a few, prototypes. Like you always sell, like this is how you can do that. Like here are 5 examples, and pick 2 and present like all the stuff you've talked about before. That requires a lot of thinking and slowing down before shipping. So there's a big difference. I know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said something there that kind of triggered like a thought. Like I'm curious your take, because we can, like, the risk is that we're shipping too fast. Does that potentially unlock more A/B testing across the board? Because you can create so many things so quickly. Does that give us more opportunity to like come up with like maybe 2 or 3 different variations and then ship them in parallel, so that you can figure out which is the best kind of thing, versus shipping one thing and hoping and like looking at the analytics, see if it kind of does what we think it does. But like instead, because we can ship so quickly, just create 3 versions and then A/B test or ABC test.
Do you think if you have enough users on a monthly basis that you can run multiple A/B tests in, at the same time? But that you have enough users that you can divide them into 5 buckets?
Yeah, I think it really depends on like the volume of users you have per month. Like if you have like 1,000 users, you're not going to get the volume that you need. But like because generally, like rule of thumb, or at least for me, correct me if I'm wrong, like you generally want to test. If you're A/B testing, you're doing it with like a subset of your users. So you're doing it with like maybe 20%, and then you're running the experiment for like 2 weeks or a month, and then you have the volume of data or data points to make a decision. So this may be more relevant for like larger enterprise who have like large user bases where it's so quick to ship something that you have the opportunity to A/B test because you have that volume.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. So yeah, I think if you look at anything you're trying, if it's, it's a presentation or a prototype or an A/B test, it has, I think, 3 phases. You have the prepare phase, build the actual A/B test, build your presentation, write your interview script, whatever. Then phase 2 is doing the thing or letting the A/B test run. And then phase 3 is analyzing the outcome, thinking about next steps and what to do. The first and the final step is something that can be done way quicker now that everyone can ship. You can use AI to analyze outcomes. You can use AI to prototype multiple, like you just mentioned, like ABC variations. So there's time to be gained there for sure. But then the middle part, if you want to run an A/B test for 14 days or 28 days, it just has to be there. You just have to wait on it to finish. So I think it would help in that regard. Shipping something, in phase 1, phase 3.
It kind of slows you down a bit. Like you can ship like the probably the industry standard for people who are not kind of at the mature stage is like ship and then on to the next thing. But like if you can quickly do a bunch of things, I mean, that's a lot of like, in reality, that's like a lot of spinning plates. Like if you're constantly shipping and experimenting, it's like, it can be overwhelming, but
that response, that Wolf response on my end was more like a trauma moment from my past, where I worked on again in a large company where they abused MVP. Well, this is just an MVP, just to cut corners. I'm very sure that it's something you recognize, and it's fairly standard, I would say, that they just make version 1 really quickly, really cheap. It's an MVP and then it's shelved and we do not touch it again. Like that, we'll test and improve later. It's just a way to keep people in their seats. Let me say one closing thing here as an experiment, and we'll get back to it later in a couple of episodes. I am building a feature for one of my projects in code, AI assisted, and there's no Figma. I am too stubborn to admit it. I'm not going to admit it, but no Figma involved. It's just code, me looking at the screen and improving it as we go. I used Claude Code's plan mode, to really do research, really figure things out, share context, like you suggested last week or the week before. And it's currently, this was a big moment for me because up until now, I was much more in control of the code because of the coding background. But this was out of my league, but it's coded based on documentation and planning mode. So it's really detailed. I do not have the skill to review it myself. It does make sense to me looking at it, at the code. It works in a browser, but if maybe I've created a large security risk, I don't know. So that's currently in review in a PR, and there's a bit of feedback already, more UI wise, like should we do this? How about a screenshot? Like that kind of stuff. But I will keep you posted on how it goes because I am shipping the whole thing.
Cool.
So that's very exciting, and that's new territory for me to be responsible and in control, and the main guy for a whole feature in code, production code even.
Yeah. Well, what I'd say is probably like what you're feeling is it's new, but after a couple goes at it, it'll feel more comfortable. It's just that like imposter syndrome thing, which is basically just you're experiencing something new until you have that pattern recognition. Then it feels, I'm sure you'll feel like a seasoned engineer, or like you're not afraid of that PR to come back.
No, of course. Yeah, so I'll keep you posted on that. It's very
Please.
exciting. So I am shipping it, like I said, but there are lots of review processes and guardrails in place. So it feels to me like that's the way it should go. And I'll report back when I have more. Will be either a good feature or a good story.
I want to hear all the stats.
Nice. All right. Well, and for anyone who's listening, you have to come back and listen to the episode where we will reveal all of that. I do not know when that is. So, yeah, come back every
Love the
time.
teaser.
All right.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players and more.